Welcome to the WellPlayed DLC podcast, Australia's juiciest for some reason podcast. I am your host, Adam Ryan, and I am joined by Zach Jackson,
Evening.
Nathan Hennessy,
Hello, my name's Nathan Hennessy.
Josephina Huck,
Hi.
and James Wood.
Hi, gamers.
Now, usually we do the round table, ask how everyone is. I'm going to interrupt that because I have a story to tell you. A story of woe. It's not a good one, I'm afraid. So, after a couple of years off, I decided I'm going to get back into Call of Duty because Black Ops 6 actually looked like it was going to be a good bit of fun. You know, they got the zombies, they got the multiplayer that has all the sweaty kids, and the campaign looked decent enough, right? So I went out, bought a physical copy from my local EB Games, something I haven't done in quite some time. It was a wonderful experience. I get home, get it installed, which is, I'll tell you what, quite the endeavor these days because it's like the Call of Duty launcher and you have to pick which game you want and which parts of the game. It's like a Lego
This
set,
didn't
right?
even install.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, cool, you bought the game. Let's go.
You got the game. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you like to play that game?
Well, I did want to play the game. Could I? Absolutely not. So I opened the game. I just want to start the campaign. You have to be online to do that. It tells me I have been permanently banned from all Call of Duty products. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. I don't think I've played a Call of Duty in about 6 years. So
Since you last
not
got
sure
banned,
how that's
mate. I was
happened.
playing with you.
Yeah, exactly right. You remember. The real G's remember. So jump on the Activision support website, load a ticket, and they're like, oh, we can't actually link that PlayStation account because it's to an old Activision account under an old email that I had since deleted. So I had to go through the whole rigmarole to dredge that back up, loaded a ticket, and I appealed my ban. They get back to me and say, sorry, we saw that you were using cheating software and you will not be welcome back in Ivory Tower. And we can't explain why because of security reasons. We can't give you any proof that you were cheating. See you later. Thanks for your $110. Yeah. So I promptly returned the game, and unfortunately, I can never play Call of Duty again. How good is that?
Wow.
So your PSN account is banned. That's the problem. You can't just like make a new Activision account.
Completely banned, yeah. It's the place. So if it was just the Activision account, it wouldn't be such a big deal, right? Make a new one, move on. D-link, relink. We're good to go. Let's 420 no-scope. Unfortunately, it's my PlayStation account, which I'm a little bit attached to with my hundreds of probably thousands of dollars that I've poured into buying games and shit. So it's just not going to happen. Call of Duty, unfortunately, is no longer for me. So that kind of sucks.
Wait,
But
so
look-
what did you do to get banned?
He was playing.
No idea.
It was the fucking extraction mode that came out with like Modern Warfare 2 or something. Remember, man? Wasn't it?
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
Akira,
yeah.
And you got booted mid-match. But the thing is, they killed that match. It was in beta. It never actually launched. I think you must have just got caught up in a weird bug. They're like, nah, you fucking
Yeah.
suffered now, cunt.
The funniest thing, the funniest part of it is like I wouldn't even know how to cheat if I wanted to. I genuinely am so clueless that I wouldn't have the first idea how you go about cheating. So I don't know, fuck 'em, I guess. But yeah, I won't be playing Call of Duty ever again. But we're not here to listen to my tales of woe about Call of Duty because we have got quite the slate. To look forward to, we have the Slitterhead review, the Blackheart review. Zach has been fiddling around with a PS4 Pro? No, PS5 Pro, get his impressions. And apparently, the government wants to stop kids playing games on online platforms. So, yeah, that's interesting. So we've
Maybe we'll get good again.
yeah, look, we can only
Who
wait
needs
and
cheating
see, but
software when 16-year-olds can't play with you anymore? You know?
Exactly.
get those sweaty kids off Call of Duty. Maybe they'll make enough room for me to get back into Call of Duty. Who knows? But before we get there, James, how's your week been? What have you been playing?
My week has not been too bad. Sun's out, a little sunburnt now as well, which is a fun turn
Love
of
it.
events for me. Always love it. I always feel like I run red most of the time anyway, so now it's like a double layer of self-consciousness about that. So just a really fun place to be at. But I have been playing, I've been finally finishing up the Remnant 2 Platinum run. I have one more trophy left to get. I just need to get two more traits, I think, and then I'm done with that game, which is very exciting. I've been having a wonderful time with that. and also Dead Space 3 co-op campaign.
Ooh,
Yeah, which
interesting.
I'm
I
gonna
never had the
save my
privilege.
thoughts on for once I'm done with it. But initial impressions based on the first like 4 hours or so are that I see why this was maligned at the time. I think it does some stuff pretty well. I think it does some other stuff pretty badly compared to the other Dead Spaces. It's a real mixed bag situation. But I am enjoying kind of like dabbling with, you know, hated games of a certain era. It's really interesting going back and sort of seeing what design principles were ruling at the time. And, you know, for some reason now there's a full crafting system in Dead Space, which is kind of clumsy and exhausting, but
Why
also
not?
really cool. So, you know,
Obviously not wanting to put the cart before the horse because we want you to give us your full impressions later down the track. But is it one of those games where the co-op does a lot of the heavy lifting because you're just dicking around and having fun with a mate?
for the most part, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just getting to see somebody else stomping on I was going to say xenomorph. That's not correct. What are they called?
Necromorphs?
Necromorph?
Necromorph? Yeah, there we go. I was close. Yeah, like
Yeah.
getting to see someone else do that is really cool. And we also figured out that the light emitted from our different helmets created like actual light beams on the ground. And then we spent like 30 seconds being like, whoa. So, you know, swings and roundabouts.
Dead Space 3 should be reevaluated, is what I'm hearing. Is that maybe the critics were too rough?
Let's
Thanks,
hold up.
James.
It's no
Glad that
RE6.
you don't even fucking start. Look, going from one RE6 lover to another, Zach Jackson, what have you been up to this week, and what have you been playing?
Nothing, my friend. Just work and stuff we'll talk about.
Oh, nothing.
I got
On the
nothing for you.
content grind. Look,
Sorry.
He's a real
sometimes we-
professional.
That's
Sometimes we have those weeks, you know. That's all right, mate. Sit back and relax. Maybe play some games tonight. Who knows? Josephina, tell us. It's been quite some time since we've heard from you. I won't make you, you know, go through your entire life for the 6 or 8 months that you've been on the podcast, but what have you been up to recently, and what have you been playing?
Recently I've just been, I think, recovering from Games Week stuff. Still actually. I had a
Yeah.
mix of like the Games Week stuff, but also like multiple family members in town, work. Yeah. But I have been playing some cool stuff. I've gotten into like the old Nintendo games that comes on the Switch. I played
Yep.
Adventures of Lolo and Star Tropics.
Okay, all right, hold on. I was
Sure.
They're
expecting
both-
like Mario.
I'm trying to do like ancient research basically.
Oh my god! When you went old school, you were like you've gone all the way back to like the
Really
NES.
old school. Yeah. So I
Okay,
finished
all right.
those two recently and they were excellent. Really good. Super hard. Had to cheat constantly. Had to look up everything on the internet constantly. And I finished up Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I have a lot of opinions on that. But it was fine. It was fine.
It
And
was
also I
fine.
played, yeah, I don't know if you have all probably covered this in previous podcasts, so I won't waste your time, but I did have weird feelings about it. And on top of that, Blackheart, which we'll get into, I think, a bit later. Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Does the Nintendo like I don't want to say backwards compatibility stuff. The older games, do they have that thing where like it introduces saves into games that didn't have saves, or is it literally just a rip straight from the NES and you just have to deal with it?
Nah, you can make save points at whatever time, like outside of the
Cool.
game. And the other cool thing is that you can rewind.
Oh,
So
nice.
like as soon as you die, you just rewind a little bit, change your positioning, you don't get stabbed to death. It's great. It's really good.
Love that. I think that's like a minimum requirement for those, not the older emulators, because yeah, those games are punishing, and they just didn't really give a shit whether you were having a hard time. It was just like, who gives a fuck, you little 5-year-old? Figure it out. So I'm glad to hear that it's made a little bit more accessible. That's good.
Yeah.
Nathan, you're sitting there ever so patient. Tell us about your week. Tell us what you've been playing. Give it to us.
I've been a busy boy, but I've managed to sit down and have a bit of couch time with my partner and use that to go through our annual tradition of playing through a Call of Duty. We skipped that last year. We didn't bother with Modern Warfare 3. We heard bad news on the grapevine, steered clear. We had a lot of problems just trying to get that game to launch. So we didn't have the issue of having our accounts banned because, unlike Adam, we don't use cheating software. We're good, honest gamers. But when we first managed to, the first thing you have to do is download the campaign. So it hits you with that 80 gig download up front. Enjoyed that. And then when that finally got downloaded, we launched the game. It goes, there's an update required. You must restart. We're like, okay, didn't we just do that? It's like the Donkey video. Donkey just did a video last week on Black Ops 6 where the whole thing is 10 minutes of him trying to launch the game unsuccessfully. That's on PC. We managed to replicate most of that on the PlayStation 5, which was alarming and involved several hardware crashes, like having to pull the cable out of the wall as well just to get the fucker to run. We got to run, and we had a fine time. Fine as strong an opinion as I would use to grace that campaign. I've heard some people really blowing some fluff up it. It was fine. Game has no idea what it wants to be. Every level feels like it's developed by a completely separate team doing completely separate things. It sounds interesting on the surface, but it also meant that not every one of those ideas kind of felt like it achieved a kind of cadence or rhythm that we were looking forward to. There wasn't much excitement to be had. It was just cool ideas, riffing on spy thrillers and stuff like that. But we're more expecting our big popcorn explosions and stuff, and there was very little of that. It was mostly just riffing on Hitman missions, lots and lots and lots and lots of stealth, which was
and I've heard there's
shit.
there are some kind of quote unquote open areas where you can decide what approach you take or whatever.
I mean, the
Is
game
that-
pretty much just telegraphs 3 waypoints and goes, which one you want to go for?
Yeah, right, cool. And how
Each
long
one-
is the campaign roughly? How long did it take you in April to get through?
Way longer than we thought. It was 8 hours, and it felt
8
too long.
hours.
Yeah,
Holy
'cause
shit.
there are some missions that just suffer from, as I said earlier, pacing issues, egregiously bloated. There's one open world mission that has nothing of any substance to offer other than the fact that it's single player Warzone. And here's some micro missions that just involve you just shooting a bunch of dudes, move to the next area, shoot a bunch of dudes. It's in this really open space. It took me 2 hours to complete. It was way too long. And there was
Yeah,
nothing
that's
interesting that happened. So, yeah, it's fine.
Have
That's
you
how we
touched the
felt.
multiplayer at all?
I've sat down for the multiplayer maybe 3 times now. I've also played Zombies 3 times, and I've had a terrific time between both. This is the most approachable it's felt since the PS3 era, maybe. They haven't front loaded it with nonsense that the returning players are looking forward to. It's more like if the first few hours of the game is very much it's just giving you specific weapons tailored for new beginners. Everything's very gentle on the onboarding. It knows exactly what it's trying to do in introducing new players, and I really respected that. It makes me want to come back and play it some more, because in years past, you get into a new lobby, all the 16-year-olds are there. It's not a welcoming time. It feels a little easy now. And Zombies just, I don't know, they've got lightning in a bottle with that. I'm just diving into that, having no idea what I'm doing and having a great time.
The last Call of Duty multiplayer I touched was Modern Warfare 2 on the 360. So it's been a really long time for me. And I'm
You might
having
be banned, so
well,
oh no, you are
luckily
playing,
I'm
son
not.
of a bitch.
Turns out I'm just naturally good at the game, which surprised everybody involved, I think. But I am actually not bad at Call of Duty, and I'm having a really good time with it. So
You're doing those sick dive through a doorway.
all the fucking time, I'm
Son of
so
a bitch.
obnoxious when I kill people on my back. Been it's great.
The movement is ridiculously fun. It's too much fun. Sliding around. If only Adam.
That's-
I
It's
know.
cool, man.
It's a shame
It's
you can't
cool.
join us, mate.
Just play the
Yeah,
campaign.
thanks. I can't. It's online only. You literally can't access any of the game.
So my
Without
internet's
being
been
online.
mucking up through the week. I had to replace my router, and yeah, I did learn the hard way that as soon as I had to disconnect my router, the game just threw me to the menu and went, "You can't play this anymore."
Even with
So
the
I-
campaign.
single player.
Mate, everything. So I took the disc, remember those, to a mate's place because I was staying up in Launceston for the week, and we were like, look, just because I can't play it doesn't mean you can't. I'll bring it with me. We'll play some split screen multiplayer. Each person not only needs a PlayStation account, they both need an Activision account to just do fucking split screen. It is wild scenes. Absolutely wild. Fuck that game. Fuck Activision. Fuck Call of
Ah,
Duty.
so you're trying to play with Adam Ryan. Not going to get around the system that easily.
Absolutely not, mate. I can tell he's in the room. I can smell him. But look, I haven't been able to play Call of Duty. I have been playing some other stuff though. So suck on that, Nathan and James. I don't have my full review thoughts yet, but I have been playing Redacted, which is like the roguelike game set in, for some reason, the Callisto Protocol universe.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, that
much
wasn't a
better
joke?
than
No,
No,
that's for
no,
real.
no,
no.
Oh,
it's set in Black
I
Iron
thought you
Prison.
were being
which-
clever saying I've been
yeah.
playing Redacted.
Nope. No,
oh,
no.
I thought
that's-
okay.
No,
Mine's
So
a
yeah,
lot
nothing
I'm
about
better.
redacted as a joke is what I'm
Who's
hearing.
the
confusing people
person
left
that-
and right.
Was it you?
I'm so happy.
I think it was you, Adam, when I asked you, do you want to play this game? And I said redacted. You were like, yeah, but what's the actual game called?
No, you sent me a message being like,
Oh,
"Oh, I
was
got a
it
cool
you?
code today for
Was it you?
redacted,"
It
and I was
was
like, "Why are you
you.
being an asshole about this?
Yeah,
Just
it
tell
was
me
you.
what
Okay.
it is."
Okay, it was you. It was you. All right. I knew it was one of you.
You don't need to be secretive. Yeah. It's the SEO on this must just be completely fucking cooked. Anyway,
Well, do you
game's
put
really fun.
the clothes?
The
They're not even like.
brackets,
Yeah,
they're not. Well, they're not brackets, are they?
they-
They're
the chunky thick boys that oh boy.
Chunky thick boys.
Oh,
Huh?
Yeah, you love that. Yeah. Anyway, all of you, the
so
game's
it's-
really
so,
good.
Wait, hang on. So it's open chunky thick boy, redacted closed chunky thick boy.
Redacted close chunky thick boy. Yeah. I'm glad we got that. We're all writers in the room.
The
But yeah,
SEO on that must suck.
anywho, the game is really good. I haven't quite completed a full run yet. I'm very close to the end of actually finishing a run successfully. Game's not as hard as I was expecting, but neither was Callisto. Hey, outside of that, I finished the Lake House, which is the Alan Wake 2 DLC, which was fucking excellent. And now I'm sad that I don't have any more Alan Wake 2 to play. It is literally all gone. Played through the 2 expansions. They're not doing any more. But I am going to go and play Control now, because I never actually played Control. So
oh, you're in for a
I've
treat.
got that to look forward to. Yeah.
Mm.
The first DLC had Jessie Faden in it, and I was like, this chick is actually pretty cool. Let's see what she's about. So yeah, I look forward to. I'll give you the update on that once I've played a couple hours. But that's
You
been
think you're
me.
gonna go and play Quantum Break? Because that's probably the best one.
I'm already cooking up an idea for an article about Quantum Break, so maybe I will. Who knows? You'll have to wait around and find out, won't you, Zach? But
You
we
won't.
have some content that is. I won't. We have some content that is already on the website, including some reviews. Josephina, you have reviewed Blackheart for us. Before we get into your thoughts, can you give us the elevator pitch? What is Blackheart for those who don't know?
Sure. So Blackheart is made by a quite small studio. I think like a 4-person studio from New Zealand. I actually have no idea if they're called. Is it Hyperreal? Or Hyporeal?
Oh,
Sure, both, either.
I think it's hyper real.
Both. Hyperreal.
I was
makes
going to
more
go
sense.
hypo real,
Yeah.
but you've now made me think. Yeah, I'm second guessing myself now.
Yeah, never clean that up with them. But anyway, so it's a I've made a lot of comparisons and I think other people have with Hades and that franchise.
Mhm.
It's a top-down shooter, but like shooting with magic kind of game. 2D animation, RPG style. A pretty quick game to play. I probably played it for a little bit less than like 10 hours and
Okay.
I basically had a really great time with it. Yeah, I don't know if any of you played it as well because
Yeah.
I know I was bullied into reviewing it because the rest of you are too keen on that studio and too keen on the game and you didn't think you could be objective enough to review it. So
oh.
Yeah, so for reference, I think
Mhm.
potentially all 4 of us in PAX's past have played the game. And yeah, we are quite endeared to the folks that have made it because we're all pretty keen on the New Zealand offering that usually is at PAX every year. But yes, well, I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it. Tell us more.
I I really enjoyed it. Actually, I was super surprised. I've only a couple times I've reluctantly put up my hand to review something which isn't really my genre of game. But this time it really worked for me. So, like, disclaimer for like it's a fresh game, it's a small team, so there are a lot of bugs that they've either fixed already or they're actively working on. But the feeling of playing the game was so good. Completely addicting. The difficulty level was spot on. So basically it's set in this world. You're the youngest son of a royal family, and you get these magical powers from this magical owl creature. You kind of do it in secret in order to fix the realm. The realm is kind of falling apart. But magic is somewhat not outlawed, but it's really frowned upon.
Mhm.
So there's these really cool, like the writing is excellent. It has no business being as good as it is actually.
Just
Really tight writing.
sorry to
Yeah.
cut in just very, very quickly,
Uh,
but it's worth mentioning just based on that topic alone is that the guy who, or the one of the founders of the studio, he actually wrote. So the game is based on two novels that he wrote about the main
mm,
character. So that's probably does help why the writing is. If you can write books, maybe he's not too bad at writing games.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's probably it probably has a lot to do with how it's so it's clean, it's structured, there's no bloat, especially in such a short game. Um the characters aren't like super like they're not very distinct from each other, but they're still all like very witty. The dialogue's very funny, a lot of passive aggressiveness. Like I think the devs have compared it to things like Game of Thrones. I made a comparison to like the Succession siblings from that TV show.
Oh,
Cool. Okay.
Um like not as like uh profane and
Sure.
cutting, but definitely elements of like there's a lot of sibling rivalry and people vying for the throne. Um yeah, there's like your your king who's the father, and you're keeping a lot of secrets from a lot of people, and the whole time you're basically going through these maps, crawling with magical creatures. You need to kill them, but it's not just that. There's I I don't want to reveal too much because it's
Mhm.
the story is quite interesting, and every level actually has a really novel kind of goal at the end of it. Um, but yeah, basically you're going through these maps, you're picking up different power-ups, you're leveling up. You can choose to focus on like your attack or your defense or your like critical hits. You have these what are they called? These modifiers that you can also equip as well, and they do really fun and quite powerful things. And the thing I will say, coming back to like comparison to like something like Hades, is that I really, really liked the boss battles. They were really hard. They were really, really hard. But not so hard that I wanted to like cry and throw my console across the room. Like they were you knew you just had to learn them and
Yeah.
move around in a certain way and use certain spells, and that you would get there eventually, but you also knew that that would take a long time. Super satisfying to play, and I'm really surprised that I haven't seen a lot more coverage of it either. I know they're a small team and they haven't found a publisher, so maybe that's part of it, but yeah, like I said before, it's just uh the quality is amazing for such a small team, and I am not typically into this genre of game that much, but it really hooked me. Really, really hooked me. Yeah.
And you played
Big
this on
recommend.
Steam Deck, yeah?
Yeah, I did play it on the Steam Deck, so that was a bit of a different play experience as well, because I knew there would probably be a couple of more bugs that came with that, like putting it over on like a gamepad situation instead of like for a desktop. So
Yeah.
yeah, but a lot of the problems that were specific for the Steam Deck, there are a lot of workarounds, so I was happy to do that. Yeah.
Just on the
And
publisher thing, I've actually spoken to the team about this, and they mentioned that um, they had some interest, but because of the way that the games economy, let's just call it that, is going, basically they were most of the all the publishers were quite reluctant to invest in like a small, not sorry, I shouldn't say small, in an debut team, in like a debut game, in an
Yeah.
unknown quantity. So, which is a shame.
Oh,
Yeah.
just that, just because they're like it's their
Well,
first game.
that's from memory. Like, I mean, he may not, they may not have disclosed all the chat, but it was essentially that like they're not investing as much at the moment, so they're quite picky and reluctant to take on brand new teams making their first game kind of thing.
Yeah, that's really sad. Yeah.
Mm.
Dummies, I think. I don't know. There's so much potential for this game. The story itself, I mean, because there are also multiple books. I don't know if there's at least two, right?
Yeah.
2 books. So yeah, there is the potential for the story to keep going. You can definitely add to it. So I don't know.
On the topic of the story, the characters, are they voice acted or is this all just text based?
It's all text based. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I thought so. And
Yeah,
game
actually that's a good point. Yeah. I wonder if it would have been, I don't know, more engaging with that. I find that I lose a lot of patience when too much text is like voice acted and you
sure.
have to
Yeah.
and I think because of the pacing of the game, maybe I don't know, I think that's a personal preference, but maybe that's
Mhm.
something they can consider. Yeah.
And gameplay wise, you kind of hinted that it has some RPG elements, like you're leveling up, you're putting skill points into powering up or whatever. I vaguely remember that the two times that I've played it, I think I had a fireball and then maybe I had more of an electricity power. How many different attacks or abilities roughly are you playing around with that you have the choice to pick between?
4 basically. So there are 4
Yeah.
like magical attacks. You're dashing around a lot and even that becomes like I think you have like 2 slots for like dashes, so that becomes exhausted really
Hmm.
quickly. Yeah, so you have your like standard like shooty magic attack, which is the one you'll go to most of the time. I think the second one is like it's more of a protective one, something that protects you or keeps the enemies like paralyzed in some way for a bit, stuff like that. The third one is like a big attack that affects a bunch of enemies at the same time. So one of them is like a
Hmm.
lightning bolt. That was my favorite one. We just shoot one of them and it connects to like a bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one is like your mega attack. I found, I only found, because it was also hard to, like, because you collect these things, you don't finish the game with all of them. It's not that you level up and unlock them, you're just
Right.
finding
Yeah.
these around the map. So I only had 2, and they were pretty powerful, but they were also like the type of attack where like once it starts, you can't do anything else. Like you can't be running
Sure. Yep.
around like yeah, and you'll keep being attacked through them. So yeah, but they were powerful. But yeah, so all 4 of them together, they were like I did basically use all of them, especially in like a really, really tough fight. I did. But I did find with that first attack, the shooty magic one, the first one's the best. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I tried all of them and it's like they didn't have the same. I couldn't really tell if some were doing more damage than the others, but I knew that the first one just felt better. It felt more powerful, so
Back to Old
I
Faithful.
just stuck with that. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I can see it in front of me, but for the listening audience, what score did you end up settling on?
I think I gave it an 8. I'm in an R in about 8.5. I was going to change it right at the end. Um but it is a bit buggy. And I think there were just like those kind of technical logistical things that were holding it back. And I think even though it did a lot of different things really, really well, it might have been better with a little bit more time, just a tiny bit more time.
Yep.
But apart from that, like, such a great play. I would basically recommend it to anyone if they're either willing to deal with those like technical difficulties or wanting to be patient and wait for them to sort that all out. But
Yep.
yeah, big recommend, definitely.
Awesome to see, particularly, as a debut title from a smaller New Zealand dev. It's good to see that it's quality that they're working with, even if there are some little janky bits and pieces. But yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm keen to give it a crack. It's just on PC from memory at the moment. Zach, I don't suppose you've heard if they have any intentions of branching out to console.
They would like to, but they got to see how it goes first.
Sure. Yeah. Nah. Fair play. Fair play. But from one game that may have been a little bit technically janky to a game that I am assuming is flawless in the technical department and has no jank whatsoever. James, give me the elevator pitch on Slitterhead. Tell us what we can expect.
Yeah, Slitterhead is also a self-published indie game by all definitions, which is a fun surprise I found recently. This is from Bokeh Game Studio. Slitterhead is both the name of the game and the name of these weird insectoid aliens that are hosting some kind of like very slow takeover invasion of a fictional Chinese city called Kowloon. It's kind of like a blend of two real cities in the late 1990s. And you play as a force, let's say a disembodied force that has some sort of connection to the Slitterheads, who is going to go around and possess a bunch of different human beings to fight a war against the Slitterheads. The reason we are fighting the Slitterheads is, of course, because they eat the brains of humans, usually out of the eye socket. And then once they've consumed a human brain, they emulate the human completely, from clothes to personality, memory, all of it. They become that person while still being a Slitterhead inside. So they've sort of been slowly taking over this population, and now it's time to spill some blood in the streets and fight the Slitterheads.
Because of course they eat the brain through the eyeball. That's naturally, that's the
Fastest
easiest
way to get the brain out of the skull.
Well, I've definitely found that it's the quickest way to get there.
Yeah.
Most efficient. I was already very keen for this game. That elevator pitch has got me even more excited. But give us your thoughts. Did it land for you? Tell us.
Look, it did, but in a way that's very much like, this is such a James game, and we've kind of been joking about that throughout the entire year leading up to the release of this thing, that like, this is made for sicko pieces of shit just like me. And so I am predisposed to having a very good time with what this does. This is from Kichiro Toyama. This is his return to horror. So this is a guy who kind of was the father of Silent Hill, which obviously very impressive. But more importantly to me, was also the creator and game director behind the Siren series, which is kind of Silent Hill's ugly stepsister type situation going on, but is secretly, I think, a much more interesting franchise.
Camera one, yeah? Like,
no, that's Fatal Frame.
What? Okay, which? Where am I getting confused? What's
Fatal Frame has a camera and Siren doesn't, so that's your confusion.
Yeah, but Siren is more of like a Silent Hill style
Kind of
situation?
not really ish. It's much more about like Japanese mythology horror, but set in usually modern rural towns or islands. But the core conceit of it was
Ah,
that you were
okay.
able to see through the eyes of the enemies in the levels. I think it was called sight jacking in that. I think it's also called sight jacking in Slitterhead, because this is him returning to horror. He worked on Gravity Rush while he was away from horror, which also
Banger.
surprised me quite a bit. Yeah, right. So yeah, you sort of you sight jack into slitter heads, you get put into
Oh.
contained levels.
I know it just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It
Oh,
does. It's such a
what a
beautiful word.
sentence.
Yeah.
I'm jacking in. Let's go.
Jack it into slitter heads. But yeah, so like
It's
you get small contained open zone kind of like levels, usually really densely packed urban areas. You get dropped in there, you get to pick one of like I think 12 different rarities, which are like the human bodies that you're going to take into a mission with you. Each one has a unique weapon and skill set associated with it. You get dropped into these environments, and then you have to hunt down the slitterheads. Basically, there are sometimes multiple targets. Sometimes it's a stealth mission. Sometimes it's an action mission. Action is played out in a third-person perspective with a heavy focus on parrying. Stealth is a nightmare, but what can you do? And yeah, so you find the slitterhead, you progress the story a little bit, but then it turns out you're also caught in a time loop across the
course you
same
are.
sort of week. Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
And so you replay missions over and over again, finding new routes through them, new secrets in them, and new story beats through them as well, which is also something that was in Siren. So it's very much playing with tools that he was used to. You look
Sure.
confused.
Yeah, I'm like in the best way possible. So
Hmm.
w- when you say you play through, because that sounds kind of death loopy, roguelikey kind of
Hmm.
to me in the replaying the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Is it all set within the same area? Are we changing up location, or is it just kind of like
Uh,
it expands upon where you
You get
got
like a
plumped
city
into?
map that gets a bit bigger over time with different sort of starting points for the missions. But typically, it's
Right.
like, and a location you'll go back to a lot is like a massive apartment complex or a major street
Sure.
market area. And you just find different things within those environments every time you revisit them.
That is wild. And the 12 rarities of people is such a
Rarities.
wild way of putting
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Do they change each run? Do they progressively get like more? I don't know, more jacked. Like I don't know
Yeah.
like
Yeah. So
what you're playing with, but
the idea being that like this disembodied soul that you're playing as called was it Night Owl, I believe his name is. These rarities that he finds, he soul bonds to them. And so,
oh
you
my
can
god,
no, you can actually, as Night
oh,
Owl, jump into any NPC that you can see. So the levels are usually massively populated with repeated NPCs. You can jump into them, do combat as them, do stealth as them, do exploration as them, but it's only in the rarities that you get like specialized weapons and power ups and skills like that. So in between levels, you can spend, I think they're like memory points in the skill tree.
and like just for those who haven't,
Doesn't sound like a real video game, does it?
it
No, it
really
doesn't.
does. It sounds like such a fever dream. Like
Mhm.
James has just dropped acid, and then he's like, "Let me tell you about this thing."
Yeah.
Um, So for those who haven't seen a trailer for this game, A, stop what you're doing and go watch a
Mm,
trailer because it is
mhm.
mind-meltingly ridiculous. But moving between the bodies, it literally looks like the car swapping from Driver San Francisco.
Yeah. Yep.
Can you do that like on
On a whim.
command, or is it
Yep.
you can just jump out and jump back in?
You just jump out and jump back in. The tutorial opens with
Oh
you
boy.
climbing up a tall building in a random dude's body. And then Night Owl is like, I need to get down to the bottom floor quickly. If I just jump and jump out of this dude's body before it hits the ground, I won't die. And so you do that. That's the tutorial, is you killing a random person, basically. And
So
then the
they
game, yeah.
they don't give a shit about collateral then, clearly. It's just
Oh,
like you're
well,
a
no, but
meat
that's the
sack
thing.
that's
Like
to be
that,
expended.
it's part of the narrative of the game how Night Owl goes on to feel about the collateral damage that he causes, and like it's so funny because for everything that I've described to you here, I know it sounds like a fever dream on acid. I get it, but like Slitterhead actually gives a shit as well. It builds a story around this premise that is, it's political. It deals with ideas like refugees and displaced people. It absolutely deals with the concept of violence in the human body. It's all there, just simmering under the surface of this game that looks kind of like a really high-end Xbox 360 game. Um, the Sorry, you look like you're going to say something there. I want to let
Oh,
you
it's
in.
just I was gonna say with that because I recently did the review for Fear the Spotlight, and that was kind of
Mm.
aping PS1 style horror games, but it brought with it a lot of modern sensibilities. It's the thing I
Mhm.
really loved about it. Brought the aesthetic, brought the vibes, but it didn't feel like a PS1 game in playing. It wasn't like super janky or anything like that.
Yeah.
This very much looks like PS3 360 style of game.
Mhm.
Does it bring in the modern sensibilities, or is it kind of still shackled to that era as far as gameplay
Um,
and whatnot is concerned?
I think that uh, no. That this does feel like
I'm so
a
convinced by that.
PS3 360 era game in a lot of ways. Like, the animations are kind of jank. The fact that, NPCs are just these repeated weird porcelain faces is kind of jank. It has all the hallmarks of both an indie title and a throwback title. It's just made in 2024 by a recognizable game name, basically. It's a really odd product in that sense. But it papers over a lot of those cracks with like avant-garde cinema camera work and color theory. It's leaning in to the limitations of what it is, and within those limitations, crafts a like very distinct visual and tonal experience that is like nothing else I've played this year. Like this feels weird, but in the best way possible. Games should feel weird sometimes. Like it should feel a bit gross, you know?
I mean, yeah, I love that. I felt similar to that with the first Evil Within. Like it had
Mm,
issues out the wazoo, but it just had I don't know, like a particular charm to it. Um,
mhm.
before we wrap up, do any of the rest of you have any questions for arguably the strangest pitch I've heard in quite some time?
Actually,
Anything?
is it actually scary or is it like too kooky to
Great
be
Um,
question.
horrifying?
Looks action. It looks like an action game, right?
Yeah, it's action
Hmm.
horror, not horror action. If that kind of
Yeah,
aligns your
okay. Yeah.
expectations for it, I think that the body horror is unsettling, and I think the way that it occasionally uses its very sparing cutscenes to depict some things is gross in a good way. But I
Mm.
don't think I was ever like outright scared of this thing. No.
But it never veers into like kind of campy body horror, like
No,
it's
like
never so
I
ridiculous that you're laughing or
Well, no, I mean, I personally wasn't because, like, I think that like camp is not always indicative of like humor or trying to elicit that, right? Like, I think that we can
Mm,
play in with genre in a particularly interesting way here, in that this takes itself incredibly seriously most of the time. It
mm,
does have a laugh sometimes at itself, and that's wonderful. But those are kind of like few and far betweens as it builds what it wants to say and how it goes about saying it. It's clear that like Slitterhead gives a shit about Slitterhead, and so you just have to choose to go along on that road with it, because I think it is very easy to kind of look at a lot of this game and go, oh, haha, there's that goofy Japanese game. And I think that just does like a real disservice to what they're attempting to build here.
I am unbelievably intrigued by this, and I think I was already going to play it, but I think it's maybe shot up to need to play it
Mm,
soon. Um, with everything said, it seems fairly clear that you're pretty keen on it. But what
yeah.
score did you whack on Slitterhead?
I landed on an 8 because I think that the combat kind of buckles a little bit towards the end of the game when you have too many enemies at once. It's very parry focused, and in one-on-one
Mhm.
it feels good. In multiple, it doesn't. So that's just, and look, it escalates. It does what it does. It does give you tools to mitigate that, but it's never quite as satisfying as it is in those kind of like early stretches. And I think some of the writing can be like it's a little like cliche, like not hammy, but a bit tropey. Let's say. It's just when
Sure.
it veers outside of that is when I'm having the best time with it. So.
And can you give me the name of the protagonist just one more time?
Yes, it's Night Owl.
Fucking phenomenal. So, yep, this one is out now. It's on PC, it's on the Xboxes, and it's also, Zachary Jackson, on the PlayStations. And if you so wanted to,
Hmm.
you could even play this on your PS5 Pro, which I've been led to believe might be in the room with you. You've got some hands-on impressions with the big box, the big expensive box. Tell us what you've done with it so far.
Mm.
Mm.
Well, this is probably going to be a slightly disappointing discussion. I haven't really been able to give it the
I've only
time that
played
it
point and click
deserves.
games on it.
I've
I
not turned
wish.
it on.
Um, no, so KV and I were kind of sharing the review responsibilities here. for this one. Between us, I don't think we've probably dabbled enough yet. But it's a hard review because I don't know what I'm looking at half the time. Like I can't tell. Like, is my brain telling me that it looks better, or like is it one of is it like what's the word I'm thinking of? Like a placebo thing? Like like
Yeah.
the only. I want to say the the only game I've really noticed it massively so far, like really noticed it, and then maybe that, but that was one of the first ones, so maybe that retrained my brain, but was RE4, and that felt smoother. Like I could tell that was running at like 4K 60, I think it was, and that looked really good. And I think I turned on I have to. There's so many different modes and games, and they don't really have like a universal setting. It's like they will kind of have a different like Fidelity Pro or Performance Pro, Performance Pro. Then you just turn on ray tracing. But that one looks really really good. FC EA Sports FC 25 looks really good, but I don't even know if that's even pro enhanced. So I did kind of do like a bit of a search online because I was like, surely one of the biggest games in the world would
You would think so.
but to be fair, I also thought GT7 was pro enhanced for some reason, and I downloaded that and I'm like, yeah, this shit runs at like 120. Like, how good is this? And then I was speaking to someone else and they're like, yeah, that's just how it normally runs. So I was like, no way. Surely they give a pro patch to GT7. Apparently not. But I've also dabbled in The Last of Us Part 2. Now, James, you mentioned a slightly. I had a trifecta of oopsies. First one was GT7, thinking that was pro enhanced. The second one's thinking that the PS5 Pro actually wiped my Last of Us Part 2 data. What I actually realized a bit later on, when I went back to the other PS5, re-uploaded my old. So what basically happened is I loaded up Last of Us Part 2. Yep, story. Yep, let's go. Let's just continue. Nothing there. I'm like, what the fuck? So I went into the cloud storage. I could see like January this year there was some data. I'm like, cool, sweet. Accidentally hit sync, so I actually synced over the top of the cloud data.
Right.
Then I went back to the PS5 and I uploaded it back, played it, and again, no continue. And I'm like, And I'm like, did I actually play the story on the PS5? And I realized that I actually only played. No, I did not. I did. Sorry, I didn't play remastered. Sorry, is what I should say. I was playing the
Okay, right.
the original part 2 on the PS5, and I played from remastered. I played No Return. I hadn't actually played the story. Anyway, I reloaded the story, and it looks really good. There's lots of incredible detail. That game already looked really really good, but it looks phenomenal now. That has like a pro mode that is like a balanced kind of thing. This PSSR again, like I don't really know like what I'm looking at. It just looks good. Like I don't have the eye for like I can't tell if this is like a lot better or like marginally better, or if it's always looked this good. But that's kind of basically like that's almost where I'm at. I did that's lie. I booted up Lords of the Fallen, played that for probably 15-20 minutes. That ran really well in like performance mode in like pro. That looks really really good. When I switched it and I went to like quality mode with I think I had ray tracing on, it chugged hard.
Oh.
Yeah,
that game's always had struggles with
Yeah,
its performance.
performance-wise. Yeah.
But yeah, when I flicked it back to performance mode, ran like a dream, mate. I think that's almost it. There might be one or two, but like I've only kind of dabbled in them at the moment.
Are you going to set up your other PS5? You terrible, awful, low life day one PS5 into the TV in your living room and then just like run back and forth to see the same game playing on it?
Nah, it's in the bedroom, ready to go, mate. Ready to play Broken
Longer.
Sword in bed, mate.
Further priorities. I love to see it.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else that I've.
Is the
there's
form
more.
factor? Is it small? Like, is it the
It's
small,
sleeker, yeah.
like the slim? Yeah.
I've never seen a slim in real life, but I assume so. It looks sleeker. It looks nice. I actually quite like
The way
the
you said that
design.
made it sound like it was some kind of mythical thing. Like, oh my god, you've seen a slim?
I mean, like, yeah, it's if you've set up a PS5, you've set up a PS5 Pro, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't like, oh my god, this is incredible. What a setup, best setup process ever. But yeah, like if you've got the TV and you've got the disposable income, and you care about that sort of stuff, then sure. If you don't, like, your PS5 will be fine, even if you have a good TV. Because I got a couple. I'm lucky. I've got a couple of good TVs that can kind of support not quite the 8K, not quite. We're not doing that well here. But there's the ones I've got. They do support the HDMI 2.1, the 120 hertz, which I think is the same thing. But yeah, like they look really like they're less than a year old. I do want to actually move it into the living room. So what I'm playing on a. You're going to ask me, aren't you? You're not. But it's a Samsung 95C, if that makes any sense to you. I think that's the model, which is, it's quite an expensive TV. But in the living room, I've got a G5, LG G5. It's a G something. 65 inch.
G5 lean.
It's a real slanty boy. I would like to give it a try on that TV. But hopefully in the next week and a bit, because the other thing is I've actually been playing a review game as well, so I'm trying to juggle my time between that and this, which I could actually talk about, but I haven't played enough of it to give a thoughts yet. But for those wondering, it's Locomotive, which is a point and click game I've been really, really keen for, and so far it is really good. I heard that, I ignored that. Like a locomotive, I just powered on. But yeah, that's
very
much,
good. Very good.
Yes, that's all I got for you on the PS5. I thought, maybe I didn't think. I don't know what I thought, but I was expecting like a DualSense Edge, maybe. I don't know. But then again, like, yeah. Well,
aren't those things like $300 on their own though?
I don't know.
Yeah, man.
Maybe.
They're like, I think they're like $300 or $350. It's wildly expensive.
I will say, not coming with the stand is fucking bizarre. Sure, the disc drive, whatever. I get that. If people really want to, do that, they can.
Sure.
But not having the stand. See these little tiny feet. So
to actually prop it up vertically.
Correct.
Yeah. They just took it out of the box.
You just raw dogging it on there?
Did that.
No, you can't see because it's burned. But anyway, so this stand you don't actually get with it,
which is wild.
Unless you're blessed. Yeah. But the disc drive, I don't get. But yeah, it's got these little tiny plastic feet that go inside it. Anyway.
Same.
Yeah. There
you
go.
Oh.
Tell you what though, like one thing I will say of the design. So they went in the box. They give you a USB-C to C cable, right? I'm not complaining. I'll take that. It's a good cable. There's no USB-C input in the back though. Like, what the fuck, dog? Like, come on.
I've always thought that was weird about the PS5.
It is bizarre, isn't it? Yeah.
Come on, Dana Carey, Mark Cerny, what are you doing?
Cerny.
Write them a strongly worded email and ask them where some obscure lolly from the 90s is while you're at it.
All right, it's just waiting for a day off.
Well, then I just was like, okay, well, I'll just use my old cable and I'll plug it into the back where I don't want to have a cable poking out of the front, Think of the aesthetic, Mark.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't give a shit about,
You're not Steve
Maybe
Jobs.
I could go for a Mark Cerny. Who knows? We'll wait to see your full thoughts once you've played Broken Swords 1 through 7 or however many there are on it. But yeah, it's an interesting product. We've talked it to death. It's bizarre. I think $1,200 is just a wild amount of money to spend on a console to get rid of your frame rate woes. But
I mean,
hey,
yeah, yeah,
if you got the money to spend,
correct. From what I've played, like it looks better, right? Like, well, at least my brain's telling me it
sure.
looks better. Like RE4, I was like, okay, this plays better, this feels better, right? Like I can feel this. I can not so much $1,200 feel it, but if you didn't,
Yeah.
if this was your one treat for the year, or if you whatever, if you could just go out and buy it, why not? Like, this is probably, to use like a pretty generic term, this is the best way to play these games, right? Like,
Sure.
I don't think that's ever going to be in contention, but do you need to play it in that? No. I am keen to check out some PS4 games though, so because there's some upscaling shit that's on there. I just couldn't find one that would really show me. I was going to do a Plague Tale, the first one.
Surely.
I have it on disc.
Plague Tale would be good.
I have it on disc. I thought someone when I tweeted that, I thought someone would comment that, but no one did. So sad. The other thing was the council, and then I realized I have that on disc as well. So,
and now they're shackled to just sit in your disc wallet forever and just fade into obscurity. What a fucking shame.
I'll just have to be a pleb and play it on the normal PS5, mate.
Oh, disgusting. I'm surprised you could ever go back.
I know.
Thank you for that. Moving into shout-outs, something you won't be able to play on your PlayStation, whether it's a Pro or otherwise, is Mario and Luigi Brothership, which our friend Kieran Verbruge has reviewed for us. He slapped a big old 8 out of 10, saying, although the formula is bordering over familiar at this point, it's been long enough between entries that this return to the Mario and Luigi series is incredibly welcome. It manages to feel fresh enough with interesting new wrinkles that play on this new world and the story's overall themes, and its obsession with fraternal bonds results in probably my favorite take on the bros to date. Huge. Been a divisive one, this. I've seen...
Did we see the IGN review?
Yeah, I think they've slapped a 5 on it. I've seen another few like 6s and 7s, and then as high as 9s. So, I don't know, you love to see people disagree in this kind of sense.
It's been happening a lot with Nintendo games lately. A bit more of a diverse spectrum of reviews, which is really good.
Josephina, you'll love to hear that when you mentioned that you had a lot of feelings about the new Zelda game, Nathan is right there with you. He certainly has similar feelings, I would wager.
Okay.
You're not alone.
Interesting. Yeah.
James.
Yeah.
We've moved into the discussion topic portion of the show, but it is very news related. Can you run us through why Anthony Albanese hates children and hates games?
Yeah, we briefly touched on this when it first broke, but things seem to actually be pretty concretely moving now. So the Online Safety Act is a bit of legislation that's taking form under the Albanese government. Labour and the coalition are actually in agreement on this one, which is always a concern. It would basically require a minimum age of 16 to use social media and online platforms. From the jump, no grandfathering in, no parental permission allowed. Like, if you are on there now and you're 15 and this passed, you're getting off. It's over for you. Enforcement is going to fall onto the platform holders. There's not going to be any fines or anything for parents or for the users. But there is a lot of investigation going on at the moment about how that's going to come to pass, because obviously it brings up a lot of very interesting and troubling concerns about online ID and ID verification and records of who's using what. It's very thorny. As defined by the Act, these platforms will have a primary purpose of enabling online interactions and posting from users. This does technically mean that gaming platforms fit within that parameter. But at the same time, they have stated that things that are considered low risk after investigation will be exempt. Though it does seem like your basic, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, no exemptions going to be made. That's just kind of where we're at with this. In terms of gaming stuff, PSN does already require you to be 18 years old, but Xbox is only 13. So obviously Xbox is going to be where this starts to get a little bit more interesting. From the top here, I want to go around the room. Nathan, let's start with you. Do you think this is a good idea? Yes or no?
I think it's inevitable. I don't know if this is necessarily the way it needs to be introduced. Like I'm saying, in terms of, something like this could probably do with a bit more time in the oven. The reason I say it's inevitable is because when we often see Labor government introduce some kind of funky new act like this that doesn't read too well in headlines, it's just an act that's been inherited from something they've already done in the EU. Like the EU will have already enacted some kind of, maybe not. I just feel like the way this has been presented seems a bit hardcore. As you say, James, there's no grandfathering in or anything like that. It just seems like if we decide on something, we're going to hammer it through no matter what. And that's kind of where I'm like, that it seems a bit tactless. I wonder. To be fair though, I actually haven't looked into the act. I don't know what it entails, any of the details. So take that with a grain of shit.
Josephina, how do you feel about this?
I also don't know the nitty gritty of it, but I'm furious about it anyway.
That's the way. We love it.
So at the moment, it seems like a lot of people are trying to decide, is this a way of just like trying to control children generally? Or is this a way of just trying to control everyone? Because like you said, there's an age verification thing that might come into play, which means everybody has to verify their ID with whatever online platform they're using. And it's just it's just classic Australian bullshit, I think. And I think the Labour Party is just, I don't know what they're doing. I think there's they want to silence a lot of, I mean, this is the more like, not conspiracy level, because I think we're at this point, but like, they want to silence a lot of like protest around like, their current support of a genocide, that sort of thing. And they want to either just stamp that out completely or get to the young children before they get any ideas about freedom, So yeah, there's just I'm just one of the many people who don't know a goddamn thing about it, but hates it anyway.
Zach?
I don't know, man. Like, I feel like politicians, like, at least maybe the ones that we seemingly, I don't know. I think I've phrased that incorrectly. I feel like politics is becoming, there's a lot more divide. Like, it's you're either a batshit loose cannon with dumb fucking policies like this that just piss off a lot of the people who have common sense, and then appease to these nut jobs that just want to control and do all this stuff. That's basically how I feel. I feel what is the, like, again, like, I don't understand. I haven't read up on it, so I'm not, the most informed. But why? Like, what? Like, why 16? Like, surely at 16, you can have a social media account. So sorry, 15. Sorry.
You can start driving a fucking car at that age. Like, and also like
be arrested at like 10 in this country.
Don't even get me fucking started on the Northern Territory bullshit. The fact that you can't have a Roblox account, but you can go to prison at age 10 because they're looking to lower the age of criminal responsibility is disgusting. But yeah, what a farce. Like it's anywhere between like Orwellian and just hypocritical. It's there's no great in between, and it's either one side or the other. It's unfortunate.
Zach, to your point, this has come about because there's an advocacy group called 36 Months. They're named that because I think it's like 36 months from the current age to what they want to change it to.
Are they?
I don't know what that means.
All right, this is a very bad joke.
Okay. But I was on their website earlier today trying to like suss out what their politics are beyond just a simple blanket. Parents are concerned and we don't want our kids seeing things they shouldn't see before they're 16 years old, which is such a nebulous concept where, I mean, just personally speaking, like as a queer person, I know that if you were a 15-year-old queer person and you might be in a remote area in this country or whatever, the only community you might be able to find is through social media platforms. The only exposure to ideas and to understanding of who you are would come through these platforms. And so the idea of that getting like prematurely cut off, as like Josephina was saying, like just as a means of kind of like extending the period of time where a mind can be molded, where it can't possibly be molded by social media. Let's make sure it's molded by whatever fucking bumfuck parent you're born to. Like, who knows where you're gonna roll the dice on that one. And it does just feel, it just feels very, very backwards. I think that it's a good impulse to want to protect kids from the harshities of social media. Like, these places can be cesspools. But like, moderation and regulation is the way for that, not outright bans, I don't think.
Exactly right. And it's not some magical fix that when you turn 16, you'll be immune to
Exactly.
like the nasty shit that happens on the internet. And I don't
Mhm.
think that completely stripping kids of the like the ability to learn digital literacy is the way to do it. Like
Yeah,
you said, I think
exactly.
moderation is definitely the way to implement that. I think that should maybe fall to the parents rather than the government
Yeah,
stepping
what a
in and big
concept.
brothering shit. But yeah, completely stripping it is not the way of doing it. Like if it's that's what the world is, right? Social media and online
Right.
presence. It. I mean, essentially, yes, the internet was a mistake. I think we can all agree on that. But it's not going anywhere, and if anything, like it's growing day by day by day. Users, how we interact with it, and by just taking all of Australia's kids out of that and just saying, just wait until you're 16 and you'll get hit with a fucking tidal wave of whatever bullshit is on the internet is just
Mm.
a crazy way of trying to fix a problem. It's wild.
Mm.
It,
And they
it
won't
kind
know
of,
what to do with it once that
Of
happens as
course not.
well.
No.
well, it kind of
Nah.
screams like back in my day, we went
Oh,
outside
yeah.
and fucking we spoke to one another.
Yeah.
The other thing, and this I think is to do with us as well, a little bit, not us as people, but us as media. Like, social media is becoming mainstream media, like to a, almost
Mm.
probably to now, right? Like, you ask how many people under 13 or even 16, I guess, watch the news, watch TV,
Mhm.
actual TV, not like Netflix and shit. Probably very few or limited, I would say, right? I feel like most
Yeah.
people, and this is, again, social media is loaded with disinformation or, misinformation. But that's where a lot of these people, not all these people, but, this is where you can get that real time truth, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. There's a counterbalance at least.
Hmm.
Whereas like a 15-year-old stuck at home with his parents, it's like, oh yeah, he can watch The Project. He definitely won't pick up misinformation from that. Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
But let's take what and don't get too political, but let's take what Josephina kind of said, right?
Oh no.
About
Let's go.
about the genocide, right? Like, you think about what's on those mainstream media places. Like, you watch, I don't know, actually, I've actually never watched it, but like, you watch the news channels that are on TV, right? Versus what you can read on social media, and you can make up your own mind. But yeah, a lot of that
Yeah.
information that you can find, they don't show that on. So are we shoehorning kids into thinking a particular way to a certain extent?
Yeah, it's like
Anyway.
passive molding. By obfuscating certain points of view, you only let them grow up on other certain points of view. Whereas the internet is kind of like, I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, it's a great equalizer in a lot of ways. So, you know what I did
Wild
find funny?
times.
We can maybe wrap up on this note, but one of the dudes that leads the advocacy group that is behind all of this, I was having a little scroll through his Instagram today, and there's a post of him with Mr. Beast and his kid, and I was like, yeah, cool, man.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah.
We love that. Tell you what,
Hang
these
on.
kids will be just like me and won't be playing Call of Duty. So, I mean, if anything, I'll
Do we
feel a
like
little bit more seen in that sense.
do
No.
we like Mr. Beast? No, we don't.
Nah,
No, we don't.
No. Is there a
I don't
reason why we
even know
don't?
what he's about.
Yeah.
you're
Is
better
he
off.
like
Best
bad?
not to, yeah.
Is he
I
is
just
he a bad
see
man?
his face and I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that. No, thank you.
I'm not.
This-
I'm not prepared to say bad. I just don't enjoy his content or how he's achieved his success
Yes.
just by simply exploiting the algorithm as successfully as he has done. Some might
Right.
admire it, but I mean, look at the quality of the content. Think of the content.
Well, no, I've
Somebody
just,
please think of the content.
I
Think of
guess
the content.
I've just seen him do good things. So I've got no concept of what he.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, granted, you're peeling like the band-aid off of like the issue of like how billionaires interact with charity and if they should even have that
Yeah.
money in the first place. It's a whole thing.
Speaking of
Also-
billionaires, eh?
Also,
We don't wanna go there.
I wouldn't be awfully surprised if it came out that he had like bodies buried under his house or something. Something about the dude just
Allegedly.
makes me uncomfortable. I said I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
yeah, all of that wonderful stuff. But yes, it's a hot topic. I'm sure it's not one that we're gonna stop talking about anytime soon because it's likely to just continually spiral into the bullshit. It's been a fairly slow news week. James, I won't get you to read out the tiny little tidbits. I suppose the biggest thing is that the next Switch or the Switch successor will be backwards compatible. Fantastic. We love that. Outside of that, that's pretty much the news for the week. It's been a
You really
fairly
should have led with
quiet-
speaking of backwards or things that are backwards.
Ah.
That's what happens
Now
when
you
you
pick up on the
when
segues.
you relegate me, mate.
Get back in your box. But yeah, that's it for the news this week. We'll move into the off topics, and I'd love nothing more than if Nathan Hennessy, you kicked off topics with 2000's film of the week. What have you got for us?
Hello, my name is Nathan Hennessy, and for off topics this week, our 2000s movie of the week will begin with the synopsis as follows. Ooh, we're going to go on like we do. We'll start on a few layers until we get a guess. I like when we play like that.
Thank you.
Let's see how we go. So, me doing my little on the riff censorship. The brash main character, human, tries to live up to his father's legacy with an alien that keeps him in check as vengeful other aliens from the future come to create black holes in order to destroy them. They therefore set off on a starship, and that's about as much information as I can glean here. But this is from 2009. Action
Hitchhiker's
sci-fi
Guide to the
film.
Galaxy.
Is not.
All right.
Nice guess.
Species.
Species was from the 90s,
I
wasn't
don't
it?
know. Species 2.
Do we want... Okay, so here's what I'll offer you. Do you want more exposition on the synopsis? Do you want some cast names? Do you want to... What can I offer you?
Give us maybe not the main player, but can we have an actor?
Yeah, you can. Simon Pegg.
I don't know who that is, but I know the name.
And I'll give you another one. Carl Urban.
What the
You
fuck?
gotta love some Carl Urban.
I love some
these-
Simon Pegg.
How
What a
about
time.
Zoe Saldana?
I'm.
No, it's not.
Star Trek.
There we go.
Oh my
2009
god!
Star Trek.
I
Directed by
forgot that was
J.J.
time
Abrams.
travel. That's why, like, my initial thought was Star Trek, but then I was like, no, there's no time travel in Star Trek. Fuck.
No, but the Romulans came from the future.
Nah.
Ah, what a time! I mean,
Also,
I couldn't tell what the
2009,
fuck was
wow.
going on. Lens flares, too many of them.
There
Couldn't
is far too
figure out
much
what was
lens
going
flare
on.
in that film.
Do you know what loves lens flares? Slitterhead.
Oh, let's
Ah.
go.
Yeah.
Enough,
feel like
James.
really
You've
good.
already got me on the hook.
And that
I don't
wasn't
need
a knock
any more.
against it. Okay.
No, not at all. That's
Cool.
hugely complimentary.
I don't know. I got a soft spot for J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, even though
I agree.
some people detest them. I found them fun. I had fun
Yes.
with them.
I think they're entertaining. I think they're a
Correct.
good popcorn film. I think I watched maybe
Yes.
2 of them on flights, and they're perfect for that. Time Killer,
Absolutely.
wonderful. No issues with watching them on a flight. Absolutely not. That was a good one. I liked it. Opening the floor, 2 off topics though. Does anyone have anything that they've watched, they've read, they've done? Any off topics? Anything? Nathan, you surely you've got something for us.
I'm reading like a machine as always, which has been so good for me this year. I really cherish it. I've finished the 3rd book in the Wheel of Time series, so now I must be like almost 2,000 pages deep into that saga. I say that.
Robert Jordan?
Robert Jordan, correct? Yep.
Mm.
That's the author. Yeah, the fourth book alone is over 1,000 pages, so I think they just get like bigger. And again, I've still got like another 12 to go or something. A lot to go. And for casual viewing, I've been watching Abbott Elementary on Disney Plus, which has been getting a lot of awards, and I'm checking it out because of the upcoming It's Always Sunny crossover they're doing, because they're both set in Philadelphia. But it's ostensibly just it's that thing of like The Office or Parks and Rec or What We Do in the Shadows, where it's just that mockumentary. Let's just observe the days in the life of just a funny cohort of people. In this case, a struggling Philadelphia primary school, and the teacher's just trying to make do with absolutely nothing. And I found it very, very enjoyable. Much in the same way those other shows are. So if you're tired of that format of just like filming people through the like shutters on their window as they look morosely into their coffee cups, if that's like done for you, you probably won't enjoy this. But I have been.
I think it's a nice balance between like, because I find Parks and Rec a little too cutesy, and I find
Yeah.
The Office a little too not giving a shitty.
Cool.
And Abbott is nicely in the middle there. Like, it has just enough to say, but says it in just a fun enough way.
Yeah. So I've just been eagerly consuming that because it requires no effort, and I feel really good for doing so. And it is pretty funny. I think so.
Love it.
Yeah.
James, clearly you've watched Abbott. Anything else
have.
that you've been dipping your toes into in the last week?
I am going to do a cheeky little letterboxed pull up, actually, because I've gotten back into logging things on there
Ooh.
as a means of reminding myself what
Yeah,
I
I
watch
really
now.
need to do that. Yeah.
It's very helpful. I watched the first two movies in the Before trilogy. Don't know if anyone is familiar with this concept. Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and then Before Midnight. These are the films that were filmed 10 years apart about a couple that meet on a train in the first movie and then, well, follows their lives and yada yada. Intensely romantic, very well made. Ethan Hawke and a random French actress who I don't know by name, but she's exceptional. Yeah, very very good. Had a lovely time. And my
Hold on.
reading
So
has
they're actually filmed 10 years apart, or it's like
I-
conceptually there?
yes.
When you explained it, I was thinking this sounds like a Richard Linklater film.
Yep.
And then you said Ethan Hawke, and I'm like, I bet it is a Link.
It's a
and
Richard
then I
Linklater
checked it.
film.
Bloody
Yes.
hell, it is.
Yeah, he
So
made
I
the
haven't
first
seen
one.
these, and I already know exactly what happens and how they go. Okay,
Exactly
cool.
right. But the first one was in the 90s. It wasn't planned as a trilogy at all. And then I think it was just 10 years later, was like, fuck it, I've got a blank check. Let's do this again. And then another fuck it, 10 years, and we'll come back. I've heard the third one is really divisive amongst fans, which I cannot wait to see. So I'm very curious about that. And much like Nathan, I have also finished another book in my long-running 15-book series that I'm doing at the moment. I finished the second Farseer trilogy book, Royal Assassin, which was just so fucking good.
Nice.
Like, I could not put that thing down. I've already started the next one. I am just having the best time with that series.
Good
It's
stuff.
good to read.
It is good to read.
We love reading. Josephina, extracurriculars, movie, TV, books, anything going on for you at the minute?
I also love to read, but I've not read a book in so long, actually.
Sometimes it be like that.
Sometimes it be like that, yeah. Just playing a lot of video games, and I don't know why I started watching the docu series World War II in color.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Yep, I am not a war girl. I really like wartime media and literature. I really like that. Like how communities and cities and people are dealing with that current time. But I don't like the actual shooty bang bang, like actual
Glorification
war
stuff.
of it. But I don't know, it just felt like the right time to suddenly acquire a lot of knowledge about World War II.
It comes for us all, I think, at some point in our lives that you're like,
Is
you
it
know what?
age?
I think it is. I think it is. It just happens. Like you wake up one morning and you're like, I'm going to get really into history. Do I go World Wars or do I go like Roman?
Rome.
So yeah.
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 Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. I thought it might be something to do with like the recent, American
Election.
presidential election
You're
and
just
being
getting
just
prepared.
like
What would Nazis have to do with that?
being I have no idea. No, I haven't seen
Allegedly.
any similarities at all.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's like, just because of that current thing, or do I really give a shit about that current thing because of my age? It's a really beautiful mystery, and I can't wait to.
Well, let us
Who
know if
knows
you,
I can't wait
yeah.
to meet
Yeah.
Josephina.
Yeah, I don't know how World War II ends, so no spoilers, guys, please.
Nah, tight lips. We wouldn't dare. We wouldn't
Thank
dare.
you so much. Yeah,
In
but that's
colour.
about it. Yeah. In
Nice.
colour.
Zachary Jackson, without spoiling World War II, has
Please.
there been anything you've been watching or reading as of late?
I did start the Blackheart books, so I've read a few
Oh,
chapters.
nice.
wow.
Seem all right. I went and watched Smile 2 a couple weeks ago. I thought it was
Oh.
long and
Oh, yeah.
a little bit boring.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
I
liked
thought,
see
the
us all go
first
like,
one, yeah?
oh.
Yeah.
I thought I was alone in liking the first one. I thought all you guys
yeah, I don't
ragged
know
on
if
it.
I liked it. I was open to watching a second one. I'll put it that way.
Sure. Yeah.
But the second one, I just found it way too long, way too
Mhm.
drawn out. Like I when it kind of got going, it was kind of cool, but it just took way too long. And I hated the ending. That's more of me. Speaking of Albanese and his old social media stuff, I've been watching a TV show on Netflix called Red Rose, which apparently got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if you've ever heard
Well,
of it.
now.
You
You
know,
know how to pick them.
mate, I just go for the cherry, mate, the cherry that goes to the top. But anyway, so
100%
Red Rose is
quality
a
taste.
limited run show, and it's about a group of teenagers. How do I say this without really spoiling it? A group of teenagers, and it's about an app that gets downloaded to their phones that controls them. So basically, the show opens up and spoilers a little bit of the first. Well, it's like the intro, so go fuck yourself. But the girl at the start, she commits suicide, right? And but it's basically about this app that manipulates you and stuff like that. And yeah, it's this group of friends and things happen. It's pretty good. I quite like it. Wasn't quite sure at first, but yeah, I haven't finished it yet. We literally got like 8 minutes to the fucking end of the episode of the final episode, and I was like, nah, I'm done. I fell asleep like 4 times. I'm done. I'm like, we are so
Splash some
close.
water on your
Finish
face.
line.
We are so close. Like this is like edging, but for Netflix. Like this is like what that is like.
I think I respect that.
Fucking hell, I could not
one's
believe
Full
Cool.
it.
side, you're
What?
done. Get out.
Yeah.
Love it.
Nah, mate, I was like, but I didn't fall asleep. I'm awake. But then if I go and watch the rest of it, like I'm the asshole.
Nah.
Speaking
Yeah, it's
of,
called compromise.
a couple of weeks ago we did watch. I don't know if we spoke about this, but we rewatched the Silent Hill film, the good one.
Correct.
Oh, the
Yes,
first
I
one.
remember this.
Yeah, not quite as good as I remember.
Oh.
I think it's interesting more than good.
Sure. I'd pay that.
I remember when I was younger, I thought it was well. I liked it. Again.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, watching it now, I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
much better than that second one though.
Oh mate,
Second one
wouldn't-
is
we'll
fucking
see.
awful.
We don't even get the chance to run that risk because Anna's like, this film is shit. So
Ah, well.
So when
she
you
didn't-
inevitably get tickets to go see the new one, she's not down.
it would depend on the trailer. I'll let you know.
What we've seen of it so far looks.
Is there a new
Same
film coming?
director.
Yeah, I know, which makes me sad because this new one looks like a cosplay film.
I didn't even know there was a
but-
new film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's adapting Silent Hill 2, like James, Mary, all of it.
Oh,
boy.
Jesus.
Yep.
Mark Wahlberg.
Oh. Oh, God. We could
Actually-
only hope.
Don't think you
No,
want Mark Wahlberg on your streets, but
Now
you know.
this strikes me as more of a Donnie Wahlberg
With a 2x4.
film.
Donnie can take this one for sure. Handball over.
Oh dear.
Jesus
But that's
Christ.
me. Yep.
Yeah, nice. Keen and I have watched 2 horror films in the last little while. One very good, one fucking terrible. We took the laptop and just did the whole in bed until we fall asleep situation with Abigail. Holy shit, that is a terrible film. Just not good in any way. I found it so
Ballerina
bad.
Vampire Girl.
That's the one spot on, James. 10 points for you.
I didn't mind it.
No, Nathan,
I liked it.
don't even.
No, I didn't
That's
mind it.
hilarious.
I think I thought it was so bad that it's good. It was kind of like some of the humor actually landed. Key flat out fucking hated it. She was
That's
like,
a
that was a
shame.
waste of an hour and a half.
Oh.
I thought it was entertaining. I'll
Better
give
than
you that.
Renfield?
Girl, yes. Low bar to clear, but yes. I did not like Renfield whatsoever. But the other horror film that we watched was Late Night with the Devil, which I enjoyed immensely. I thought that was a great old time. Nathan, you and I are just on
So I'm
complete
with Nathan.
separate paths.
I was
Didn't
happy
go
to
it.
forget it after I watched it.
I found it just a bit wanky.
Boring.
Yeah, and boring. Like,
I would
It is
probably
a
love
little
it,
bit
Adam.
boring.
and a bit dumb.
Oh my. Oh,
Yep.
oh God. All right. Jesus
But I
Christ.
feel like aren't all good horror movies boring? Isn't that the thing?
A little bit, yeah. It's
Let me
building
change your
tension,
world.
I think. Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, fuck me, I guess. I'd go watch better films.
Well, basically,
But between now and then,
Buy yourself a disc wallet, mate.
that's
Level up.
it.
that is what I'm missing in life is a disc wallet. I do have a disc drive on my PS5, so suck on that, Zach. Suck the fuck in.
Why am I sucking on that? I've got one as well.
Yeah, you've got 2. Oh, I've really fallen into that. Let's wrap it up. I'm just vamping now. Thank you so very much for listening. If you want to read through any of the reviews, be that Slitterhead or Blackheart or Mario and Luigi, head on over to www.well-played.com.au. Don't forget the hyphen. We don't like golf. And have a little peruse on our socials, YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, James. Do we love Blue Sky?
Yeah.
Of course we do. And until next week, have a wonderful time. See ya.
Goodbye.
Really good. Farewell.